Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is the Our Turf Football Podcast. I'm Dania. Why do I do that every time? I say Dania because I start to read Sonia before I finish my name every time. So I'm thinking Dana, Sonia, and I do. Anyway,
Is that
Dana.
your romance name? You're Dania.
Sonia, Kate, how are you guys? My brain is not attached today. Everybody good? Everyone have a good week?
Yes.
Yes,
I did.
awesome. Love it. Okay, before we get started, before we do anything else, if you are watching over on Twitter, over on Facebook, I posted the YouTube link. Come over to YouTube. We have a great live chat. I think this one's going to get a little busy because, it's the NFC and AFC West. Those two divisions, I'm telling you, get people talking on them and they get going. So come on over, come chat with us over on YouTube, and we would love to hear your thoughts. This week was kind of boring. I put in our group chat, it's a non-news week when all the NFL guys are talking about golf, right? Like we know this is going on. We know what's happening. Nothing. Not a darn thing. There are a few teams, though, that did start their mandatory OTAs that did not do them last week with the rest of the league, including the Rams, who decided to do it in Hawaii.
Because why not?
Be honest to God, why not? Make it fun. And honestly, all those people who say they're not going to go, then they're going to Hawaii. Like they're taking that vacation for sure. All right. So much to talk about in these two divisions. Lots in AFC West. So that's where we're going to start tonight with everyone. I hope you guys are good with that. So probably the biggest shakeup in the AFC West this year is there is a new head coach in Vegas, and that would be one Pete Carroll. He was hired during the offseason, and then he's trying to get the band back together, apparently, because he went ahead and grabbed Geno Smith from the Seattle Seahawks. I know that they had Shaquille Griffin in, who played for the Seahawks. They've had a million different players come in, but it looks like in Vegas, at least, the big story there is that they are shaking it up, much like Pete Carroll likes to do. This was an interesting stat to me. In the AFC West, combined between these head coaches. So let's remind everyone who these head coaches are. We have Andy Reid, Pete Carroll,
Jim Harbaugh.
I was going to say Sean, but it gets me right here. And then Jim Harbaugh, Evil Harbaugh, who I love and adore. 9 Super Bowl appearances between these coaches, 20 conference championships between these four coaches. That is amazing, right? Like this is now a division. Last season, we started to get the feel of it. We started to kind of see what was going on with, Harbaugh settling in with the Chargers, but now you add Pete Carroll to the mix. The coaching pedigree in the AFC West is phenomenal at this point, right? So what does that mean? So all four teams got fantastic draft grades between A+ and B+. It was great. Oh God, Big Red, I love you. Dana, the proper term is Darth Harbaugh. I have called him Evil Harbaugh for 15 years, but guess what? I'm changing it now.
Yes,
I love that.
I like
That's
Darth
awesome.
Harbaugh.
Nice job, Big Red. Love that. So everyone did a really good job in the draft. We have to remember, though, that Vegas had 11 picks, so they had a lot to choose from there, including my very own Tommy Mellott out of Montana State, quarterback turned wide receiver. So excited to see what happens there. And then, of course, Ashton Jaunty, too, who we will talk about here in a minute, I'm sure. So when you look at these four teams, the main stories, lines kind of going on right now. Obviously, in Vegas, you have the combo of Pete and Geno and Ashton. And then don't forget that fantastic tight end Bowers that they have, Brock Bowers there. How is that offense going to come together? They extended Max Crosby. So there's a lot of question marks in a good way surrounding Vegas. Then you have Kansas City. The offensive line has to get better, right? It has to get better. And then what's going on in their wide receiver room? I don't know if you guys have paid much attention in Kansas City, but they have Hollywood Brown, Jalen Royal, who's who they drafted. Fantastic. They have Xavier Worthy. They have Juju, and they have Rashid Rice. And so kind of a weird dynamic, had some injuries last year, have some perpetual injuries, see what could kind of happen with the wide receiver room there. And then good old Travis came limping back for what is 27 millionth year. God love you, Travis Kelce. Okay, so that's what's going on, Kansas City. For the Chargers, once again, the offensive line have to figure out how to keep Herbert upright. And then they did add Najee Harris, the running back. I think that was a brilliant move by them to help him out a little bit. In Denver, I literally read an article, ladies, that said, big story in the offseason for Denver, signed Evan Ingram. Well, that's nice 10 years ago, but, good for you. We'll see what happens there. But they also did add Dre Greenlaw. Here's the interesting thing.
Travis Swift.
Denver, Travis Swift. God love you, Michelle. Let me just put that right up there. We agree. We agree, Michelle. All right. So, interestingly, that Denver defense, 3rd in rushing defense, 7th in total defense, 19th in passing. So, what do? They go get Jahdae Barron in the draft, pick up a cornerback. So, we're going to see what kind of happens there. That'll be really interesting. So, that's kind of the rundown of the AFC West. I am so excited to watch this division this year because I think it's going to look very different. Sonia, I've been talking for 6 minutes, so I'm so sorry.
No, you're totally fine.
Yeah.
Okay, talk away.
What is your view on this AFC West?
I think it's totally revamped. I like what you're saying because it's going to be different. And I think I love it because it's going to be really competitive. And I think that is what we've been missing in the past couple of years from that division, is that they haven't been as competitive. But I mean, it's been the Chiefs, right? And rightfully so. But I think that all teams, especially the Raiders this offseason, made some big moves, big changes. And, I think that that's going to come to fruition. And we're going to see a much better AFC West. That's my thoughts. That was like my theme going into this season. I especially love what the Raiders did. Now, you don't want to call it a retread, but you kind of want to call it a retread. But I think Big Red asked if we can clarify Pete Carroll as a player's coach. I think so. And I think that that's what's definitely going to fit on this Raiders team. I think who was their last head coach? Y'all, I'm tired. I've been up for a long time. Who is it?
Oh my gosh. Is it Pierce? Anthony Pierce?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
2 years he was there.
Yes, he was there for 2 years. And I think that's what he wanted to get. But I think that Pete Carroll is going to be the one that's really going to bring them together and at least make a decent run at this thing. And, you can't forget Max Crosby, y'all. He's there.
Never.
And, I mean, you love defense. I love defense. But I think that really is going to be an exciting team. And I think that he and Pete will vibe and just be good. And then you look at the Broncos, who I think Bo Nix said, I know. I
hate Sean Payton. I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
I know. He is something. But outside of that, I think that he has found something with a Mr. Bo Nix.
Yeah.
And I think that they have another good thing going, and their defense has been I think that's obviously been the best part of their team, but I think that they're going to try and put it all together again. And so give them a run for our money. So this division is just going to be competitive, y'all. That's my thing. And I love it. I like how that is because, it's been the Chiefs for so long. And I think it's time for other teams to try and come at them.
So this is an interesting question from Kristen. Are the Chiefs going to be on top again? And you guys all know that we do a prediction show the Tuesday before this regular season begins. It was the Pick'em show. And then halfway through the season, we go back and tell you how wrong we are. But I think this is a good question because on top of that, then Big Red wants to know, were the Chiefs exposed for all their flaws in the Super Bowl? Should they be concerned going into the season? Kate, when you look at the Chiefs, and we are going to talk about the Chargers too, because I do think they've made some good strides there. But when you look at the Chiefs, they still made it to the Super Bowl. Yes, they lost to a rolling Eagles team. But you can see over the years the same places they seem to be having issues. I think they might
Somebody-
have addressed that line. Go ahead.
It doesn't matter. They're going to get 14 or 15 wins as long as they have Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes and the officials on their side. I mean, they're going to get their wins. They probably needed that upgrade at the offensive line. If they're going to get back, if they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, what I find interesting in general about this division, that the position that I'm going to keep an eye on most is running back, because you've got Isaiah Pacheco coming back in Kansas City, who may finish the season with the least number of yards among the 4 starting running backs. They've got Najee Harris, as you said, in Las Vegas, or in Denver.
San Diego.
Los
Angeles.
Oh, wait, let's get the
My God,
one thing at a
just keep
time.
throwing laughs out there. That's right.
The Broncos drafted R.J. Harvey, who had over 1,500 yards last year out of UCF. They got him in the second round. The Chiefs are bringing Pacheco back. The Raiders drafted Ashton Ginty, who is someone that Sonia and our friend Michelle loved all last year. I think the running game is going to be big in this division, and that's where you're going to find out quickly if Kansas City's line has improved, if they're going to be able to run the ball. Because if the other teams in this division they can control the clock, and it doesn't help Pat Mahomes to be able to score in 30 seconds with the long bomb to whichever one of the multitude of receivers he has available to him, if their defense is not going to get any rest, because they're not going to be able to sustain drives. And so of all the positions in this division, running back is the one that I'm kind of interested to see how they all do and how that shakes out.
That's a really good point. I was looking at the Chargers as being the team whose running back was so important. And yet we're going to have this same conversation here in a second about in the NFC West, but in the AFC West, I'm looking at you, Justin Herbert. I want to know if you're the guy everyone thinks you're going to be. And I'm not even talking about, the Sunshine Trevor Lawrence kind of a situation. This is, we know you're good. We know that you can throw. We know that you can make fabulous plays. We know you went through a million coaches. We get it. But the second year under Darth Harbaugh, I totally love that. It's interesting to me that we have a magnifying glass on Justin Herbert, which we should. And yet what do? They do the best thing they can for him, and they get him a really good running back. Sonia, when you look at the Chargers specifically, they had a great draft. They're getting these pieces. It's all, making sense. But at the same time, I'm wondering if this year still goes poorly for Justin Herbert, what do they do at that point?
That's a really good question. And, I think that's specifically why they got Harbaugh anyway, is to work with Justin because he does such wonders with quarterback. And I think really what it is that I think they would have to either let him go or start moving on and looking for his replacement and really let Jim get a good feel, because while Jim is a quarterback whisperer, he's not the one that they picked. He's not the one that they picked, right? Or Harbaugh didn't pick him, essentially. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so I think he might have to find somebody more his speed, his style, that he might be able to mold into what he wants. So I think if he and Justin can get through this year, then great. But if it's not going to work out, then it's going to be time to move on or start looking at another quarterback for him.
Well, and I don't think their next quarterback is in their locker room.
No.
Taylor Heineke, who's been in the league longer than I've had grandkids and not done well, and Trey Lance, who has just underwhelmed since he was drafted.
Yeah,
I know Lisa loves him, but he has just never.
Yeah.
And frankly, he's getting older too. They're going to have to look at some kind of a free agent signing in the offseason or at next year's draft if they decide. I feel like this is a deciding year for Herbert. He had 23 touchdowns last year, which isn't bad. Only threw 3 interceptions, but
which is fabulous. Yeah.
Which is fabulous. But at the same time, they only won 11 games. And when you're in a division with the Kansas City Chiefs, the way you win that division is by keeping Pat Mahomes off the field. And that Chargers defense needs to step up this year as well.
It's a really good point. So Big Red says Chargers are the team to watch. Did they peak last year or could they make a deep playoff run? It's all going to be dependent on that balance between Harris and Herbert, I think. I think that's going to be just huge. Then Michelle says expectations are too high for Justin. The running game should help, but people are impatient and they want to win now. Especially, I think, to add to that, because it's a really good point, Michelle, fans are impatient, but especially when you have that juggernaut team in your division, you can't reach them. You can't even make it competitive. It's frustrating, right? That's the way everyone felt playing the Patriots, but especially within their divisions when Tom Brady was there. You have that juggernaut that's just always lingering over your head. That makes fans even more impatient. I think when your division is more balanced, you maybe can get away with a little bit more, but just has to be someone. And there has to be someone to step up to kind of pull that team up. And that's where my questions about Justin Herbert come in. Bo Nix, I mean, we'll just see what he does, right? Like Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, although this is, I think, his 10th year in the league already. And so that's really interesting. And then you have Geno. So you have veteran, baby. I mean, I know Nix was in last year, but he's this is his second year. And then Herbert that we're trying to figure out. So the quarterback situation is kind of interesting in the AFC West. But I will tell you guys, I am way more interested in how those coaches play against each other. I mean, Carroll and Harbaugh know each other too stupid well, right? Andy Reid is in there. He knows Pete. They're all chess players. And so I think that's going to be really interesting and see where they can pull that extra talent from that they're going to need for sure. So it's interesting. Do you think, to answer Kristen's question, do you think the Chiefs are at the top again this year, ladies? As of right now, with everything being shiny on paper.
I do. I just
agree.
I think the Raiders get better than 4 wins.
Yes.
But I don't know that, the Chargers with 11 and the Broncos with 10, that they can improve much more than that. And I think the AFC is going to pretty much lay down this year the way it did last year. Don't see it. The NFC is a whole different thing. But I think the AFC, it's going to be Bills, Ravens, Chiefs.
Again, some more. Repeat,
ultimately,
rewatch, right?
and
unless there's an injury, obviously.
Yeah.
But.
I mean, I get Michelle's point about, expectations and being patient and stuff, but this is Herbert's 5th year in the league. It's not his 2nd or 3rd year. Right. And I know he's up against Mahomes, but, dude, win a playoff game. You can get in as a wild card. Win a playoff game. Let's at least get, everything else going. And it's not all his fault. There are other issues with the Chargers.
Sure.
Right.
Hopefully they've addressed for this year. So, but yeah.
2, reiterate, as Michelle does every year, until someone proves differently, you go with the winning hand. And Michelle always says that, and she's always right. So, all right. Sonia, this one is for you. Big Red wants to know, who's a bigger key for Casey's success, Mahomes or Kelsey?
Mahomes.
Yeah. I think Kelsey just came back because he wasn't ready to have kiddos with Taylor.
Agreed. But I think as Patrick goes, the team goes. And as we saw last season, like Kelsey was there, but I don't think he had as good a season. But they still made it to the Super Bowl. So, Mahomes by, Mahomes 100%.
Steven agrees. 100%. Agreed. All right. So let's now move on to the NFC West. My personal favorite division. Geez, I wonder why.
Really?
No. So interesting thing about this year, we don't have any new head coaches for the NFC West. We do have one new quarterback, and that would be Sam Darnold in Seattle, who replaced the said Geno Smith, who went to Vegas with Pete. There is, though, a slew of new coordinators in the NFC West, including Clint Kubiak, who's a new offensive coordinator in Seattle, came from the Saints. And Robert Saleh is back in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Did not do well, right, in New York. In their opinion, I think that was totally on the team, not on him. I will give him that. But he is back in San Francisco. And I think that is a great place for him to be. And I know the defensive players were really excited to have him back. So I think that's awesome. All were rated really well with the drafts. There was a couple of sites, because I go to multiple sites. A couple sites gave every single one of these teams an A. There were some they went from an A to a B, but that was about it. They really liked kind of what the NFC West did in the draft. So for each individual team, there was a couple of different things. Oh, Bob, I can't wait to put that on the screen here in a minute. Let me get there in just a second. Okay. See, this is why you got to come join our chat because they got some really good stuff in there.
Ooh.
All right. So San Francisco had a really weird off season. Obviously, they paid Brock Purdy, which, to be honest with you, they should because he's been a pretty decent quarterback for them. They had to get younger. So in turn, they had to turn around and get rid of a bunch of players. There's a bunch of players that left San Francisco. They have had contract issue after contract issue, people that want to be paid that aren't being paid. So a lot of kind of discourse, much the same what's going on in Cincinnati, which we talked about last week. It really has had quite a bit of discourse. But like I said, they've had a lot of losses. Obviously, their season was completely derailed last year due to injury. So honestly, as Big Red just said, nowhere for the 49ers to go but up if they can keep their players on the field itself. Go to Arizona. Not much is going on there. It really comes down to this offseason is Kyler Murray. And that was the other quarterback that I wanted to talk about. We need to figure out if Kyler Murray really is the guy. And I think this is his season to do that. I believe if I haven't looked in a few months, so it might have changed because they do that sometimes, but I think his contract gets a little more friendly if they needed to get out of it this year. And they really need to focus on what is the deal with Kyler? Are you the guy? And then I think a lot comes too with Marvin Harrison Jr., how he develops in that second year. I think that that's going to be big for them. For Seattle, it's really about the offense. New offensive coordinator, new quarterback, the same great defense. So the Seattle defense was ranked in the top 5, if not number 1, in a ton of categories for the second half of last season. And I know that some people will call that a fake stat, but what that says to me is they were finally learning Mike McDonald's defense, and they got very good at it. So almost the entire defense has returned. We'll see. The defense is not a worry in Seattle. It's going to be that offense and kind of what they do there because they did lose Tyler Lockett. They lost DK Metcalf, and they lost Geno. So those are some pretty big players. And then you go to the Rams, and you got to talk about the old guys, right? So not being mean to Matthew Stafford, but he's not a young chicken anymore. And then they picked up Devontae Adams, who is a fabulous player, but also an aging player. But I still think it was a really good pickup because Cooper Kupp left the Rams and went to Seattle. And now in division, very interesting. And they filled with Devontae Adams. I'm almost beginning to think it was kind of 1-for-1 there. I don't know a little bit. So yes, I know he did. Red. So their defense needs to get better for sure, but it seems to be on its way up. But my question that I'm going to ask the chat, and then I'll ask you guys after we talk with Kate a little bit, did they miss not picking up a quarterback this year in the draft? So that's going to be really interesting. So Kate, what are you thinking about the NFC West?
I completely agree with you about Kyler Murray. I'm done with the Kyler Murray experiment, but I'm not a Cardinals fan. He threw 21 touchdowns last year, and he had 11 interceptions. That's not okay. You're almost at 50%. And Marvin Harrison Jr. he tried. He was severely underutilized last year. He's one of the most NFL-ready wide receivers I've seen in a long time, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a Buckeye honk or because of who his dad is. This year, he and Kyler need to bond. They need to do that. Whatever it is they need to do, and they need to bond. That's going to be a big thing for them. But, I mean, this division in general, this whole division, in my opinion, needs to step it up. There were 5 teams in the NFC that had better records than the winner of this division at 10. I don't know how you roll into the playoffs proud that you're 10 and whatever.
You roll into the playoffs by winning by the 5th tiebreaker, LA Rams. That's what it took.
You know, because the Rams and the Seahawks were both 10-7. The Cardinals were 8-9, and the 49ers were 6-11. I think this whole division is capable and has the talent with what they did in the off seasons to move up. I like what the Rams did. I still love Puka Nacua, and I think if Stafford is okay and still does well, the additions they made could get the Chargers up into the top of the division all by themselves. So for me, it's Seattle or LA that I think made changes that aren't huge waves, but solidified They got veterans who know what they're doing, and guys that are not locker room problems. I think it may be possible that Seattle did a little addition by subtraction. I'm not sad to see DK go. We'll see how he does in his new home, but I think sometimes you don't know what happened until a player's gone. I think they'll be just fine. So that's sort of where I'm at with this division.
So let me see. I have to roll back up here, right? I gotta go find it.
You got some great stuff.
I predict this will be Kyle Shanahan's last year. Now, interestingly enough, I don't know if you guys know who Grant Cohen is. Grant Cohen is a 49ers reporter, and I freaking love him. I just love him. He's so snarky, and I love it. But he likes to throw some hard questions, and a lot of the fans don't like him because of it. But he, too, is really curious whether or not Shanahan's on the hot seat. Yes, he is a great coach, has a great history, has all these things, but if you can't get him there, and yes, he got him to the Super Bowl and lost it, right? Like, they can't get over that hump, and so it's kind of interesting to kind of see where they at. Michelle is not a fan of Sam Darnold. Sam became Sam in the playoffs. I can't disagree. And that's a worry for many Seahawks fans for sure. So let's see. But Kristen.
But y'all had 10 wins last year. And Sam got the Vikings to what? 14?
13 or 14, yeah.
We can take 14 regular season wins.
I'll take it. That'd be fine with me. Kristen says, once again, the national media is underestimating the Hawks. I keep seeing them putting them third or fourth in the division. We'll see. And I think that goes back to your point, Kate. This division, there is no real top dog. Now, everyone says San Francisco because they had injuries last year, but we don't know that. And they lost a lot of players. And we know how quarterbacks can sometimes be right after they get a big contract. So we'll see. Now, Purdy's wasn't huge. It wasn't record setting or anything like that, which kudos to them for getting that done. It was actually a really good contract for San Francisco. But I think this division, it's one little stumble and someone else climbs on top. Do you know what I mean? Like it's very interesting.
Well, and I don't mean to jinx anybody, but the 49ers still have Christian McCaffrey on their roster, and he has been hurt more than he has played since he has been there. If you're banking your offense on him, good luck with that.
Yeah. And
good luck with that.
Yeah, they have some really interesting stats when you have him in and when he's not. So
yes.
Then we have Michelle Murray. Going back to Kyler Murray is not the guy. It's just a matter of time. And I think that a lot of people are really beginning to agree with that there are more question marks about him than there are even about Herbert at this point. And so I think that this year, another microscope for sure. And Big Red, went to Seattle. Yes, he did. And Dana stood up and screamed like a little freak when they drafted him. I love Nick Imamori. I was so excited. Love it. So yes, Kristen has a good point here. So last season, the NFC West had a holy cow schedule. This year, not so much. It's a little easier. So we might see some more wins and hopefully not take a fifth tiebreaker on there. Sorry, we have so many comments. I knew the NFC West would get it.
I love it.
Well, and my question on Kyler Murray is it just that he's not as talented as we thought he was, or is it where he's at? Because we've seen Sam Darnold and Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield, who went to Oklahoma where Kyler went, find new homes and do much better. Does he have the talent to do better in a different system?
That's a really good question.
Point. So Steven says Arizona didn't miss on getting a quarterback in the NFL draft because there was probably no one there that was sexy enough for them. That's fair. So they'll stay afloat with Murray, but that's about it. You just stay afloat. I think that's a really good point. Yeah, for sure. Let me see. Kristen says she loves Grant, can't stand the Niners. Amen. For sure. Who is worse, San Francisco or Arizona? I think in this division, Big Red, I'm not going to lie, it's 6-1, half dozen of the other. It's all going to be who shows up. Sonia, when you look at this division, is there one glaring area that you think one of these teams could really excel at or stumble over any of them? Or I just see them just so even.
They are.
Yeah.
They are very even. But I think the only knock, if you will, that I have is Matthew Stafford. And that's because he's always just so injured, but plays right through it.
Yeah, it's true.
And I think that is going to be the biggest the biggest roadblock
Mhm.
potentially is his injury status.
Kate, can you look up really quick? Who are the other quarterbacks? Who are their backups in LA? I don't even know.
So in Arizona, hold on.
Oh, he gets hurt a lot too.
It's Jacoby Brissett and
okay.
Clayton June. So they got Jacoby there. In LA, it's Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And then Stetson Bennett, who, don't get me started. Not a fan of Stetson.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy has got Mac Jones sitting behind him.
Oh, okay.
And Gino has got...
Nope.
Sam
Darnold.
Or Sam Darnold has got Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, and Drew Lock.
So I think whichever team has a backup quarterback in first will be at the bottom of the division.
But to be honest with you, you look at all of them have a veteran.
They do.
Which makes me wonder and think that they don't trust them to stay healthy. Do you know what I mean? Like we all knew when Seattle took Milroe that he was a developmental quarterback and they're going to, just kind of develop him.
But there's Drew Lock.
But there's Drew Lock who can come in and play a game or two. And then, and kind of the same with all the other teams too. It's almost like they realized, especially San Francisco, that your quarterback goes down, you have to have someone who can be competent in there. I think that's really interesting. This is a good point by Kristen. Says 49ers had a clearinghouse and all their best players are past their prime. That was their big focus. You heard that over and over in their press conferences. We have to get younger. We have to get younger. We have to get younger. There's a lot of people who think maybe their window has closed for a little bit, but we'll see. I don't know. Shanahan is.
I mean, I'm looking at last year's stats from a quarterback standpoint. Kyler threw last year for 3,800 yards. Maddie threw for 3,700. Brock threw for 3,800. And the Seahawks got rid of Gino, who threw for 4,300 yards.
4,300.
He threw for 500 more yards than anyone else in the division. Now, and they've still got JSN. So if Sam can figure out how to hit him,
they should be good.
Really
and Cooper Kupp can stay on the field for at least half the season's all I'm asking, Cooper, just half. Just till we can get traded for someone. So, all right. Michelle says, they're even, but the 49ers and LA are the teams we expect to win. Purdy has to get his groove back with or without McCarthy and McCaffrey. And that's the interesting thing is Purdy's stats when McCaffrey is there, when he's not. It's an interesting division. I obviously it's a big passion project of mine, but at the same time, I just think it's interesting because like I said, it's one stumble and another team will crawl right over the top of you. I think that's just how close they are. In the AFC West, I don't think they're there yet, but I think this will probably be, Sonia, like you said, one of the more competitive years in the AFC West. The West is fun, you guys. It's good. I think it's a good time. All right. So next week, you are going to have Sonia and Kate and Lisa are going to be here with you, and they're going to be talking about the AFC and NFC South. Now, I know that doesn't sound super exciting. But it's actually, Lisa will talk about quarterbacks for a half hour. So, whatever. But those two divisions actually are pretty competitive within themselves too. And I think and there's been a lot of changes in those divisions. So I hope you guys check us out. So we will be back here again next Tuesday, 8:00 Eastern time on YouTube. Once again, if you are watching over on Facebook or Twitter, please join us over on YouTube next week so that you can join our chat. I want to thank to everyone in the chat that had all the great questions, and we will see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.